Hello, everybody, and we are live. Welcome. This is our very first episode of the Daily Democracy Report. So, welcome. Hope you enjoy what you're going to see. If not, please comment. You can comment in the video. Just have to subscribe. So, which leads me to the next thing. So, please like and subscribe if you do like the content you're going to see today. Of course, hold your judgment until we're done, obviously. And let's see, at the ticker at the bottom of the screen, you can see a couple things down there. We do have a channel on Blue Sky, so you can go to at the Daily Dem Report .bsky.social, and you can support the channel at buymeacoffee.com/ the Daily Democracy Report. So there's ways you can support the channel, and I hope you do support it in that way. So I don't really want to have to put advertisements or anything on there on the channel. So that would be great if we don't have to do that. So anyway, for today's topics that we're going to talk about, lots going on. It's been a complete shit show for, the last 70 some odd days that Trump's gotten into the White House. It's it seems like just a disaster every day seems to be occurring. Which brings me also to the reason why I started the channel. I've been debating since the election, I guess, about getting my voice out there. And I've watched other YouTube videos from David Pakman, among others. And a lot of them were kind of saying that, the more voices that we have out there, the better. So this is more of a, on the Democratic side of things is where I sit. Not 100% on the liberal side, but, I do have very strong opinions on different topics. The loss in the election that Kamala Harris lost to Donald Trump was a shock. I think I don't know where the heads are of 76 million Americans. But the fact is also that 90 million Americans that were eligible to vote didn't turn out to vote. So that's a problem too. And I think that, that's our right to vote. It's something that we shouldn't be taken for granted. And when we can, we need to get out there and vote and make our voices heard. I think if enough people would have showed up, we'd be in a different position right now. But as it stands, we're not. So with all that said, please, follow along if you want. But yeah, those guys, there's other YouTubers out there that share my same beliefs. I'm very, I answered, kind of trying to answer the call that they gave to, make my voice heard and hopefully get more people watching and listening as we go. So I know there's probably not going to be anybody that's going to be watching this or as viewers brand new. So I don't expect it. Also, if you do see this video after the fact and you want to click on or take a picture of the QR code down at the bottom, that also takes you to the buymeacoffee.com, the Daily Democracy Report. So you guys can pledge there to keep this going. And we'll see how long I can keep this going. But hopefully your support will keep it going. So there you go. That's my pitch for now. I promise every day we're not going to get the same pitch, but I do want to do this every day. And that's my plan, is to bring you something live every day. Whether we keep it live or do something different, I'm not sure yet. But I'd really like to be live only because it'd be great to get some comments during the show and be able to share those with you. So with all that said, first video I wanted to show, and we're just gonna kind of do clips of videos. We're gonna talk about them, and kind of just kind of, I'll give you my opinions on things as we go, and maybe it's something you didn't know, maybe it's something you did know, maybe you're just on your lunch break or after lunch, or you're sitting around and watching videos and you didn't see this, and maybe this is going to be news to you and something maybe I can change a mind or two. We'll see. So anyway, let's see. I think I got through the basic stuff, so I will get better at this, by the way. We'll see. All right, so the first video I want to show is it's called "The Threat is Real. Trump Threatens to Cut Public School Funding in 10 Days Over DEI Policies." So this is it's kind of ridiculous, really. What's her name? Vince McMahon's wife is the head of the Department of Education, which I don't even know why they have a head of Department of Education at this point, because it seems like this is kind of going to go away anyway. So this video I'm going to show you is from Inside with Jen Psaki. You can catch on MSNBC. So let me kind of play the first clip here. So just to set it up here a little bit, Jen is joined by former Education Secretary to Joe Biden, Miguel Cardona. And this is just going to discuss Trump's threats to cutting school funding if they do not eliminate DEI policies in the next 10 days. So let's just play the first clip, and then I'll pause it, discuss it a little bit, and we'll go from there. So here we go.
Okay. So remember all the times Trump said something like this?
We're going to be returning education very simply back to the states where it belongs. Your state is going to control your children's education. We're going to move education into the states. Let the states run the schools.
Well, apparently that doesn't apply across the board. This week, the Trump administration told state education officials they have just 10 days to prove they've eliminated all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs from public schools, or they will risk losing federal funding. Now, here's the catch, one of the catches, if that doesn't already sound terrible. The Department of Education hasn't even defined what counts as DEI, so schools will have to guess what programs they need to eliminate. Does that mean teaching Black history, multicultural programs? Does it mean MLK celebrations? And if this sounds like it wasn't exactly thought out, that's because it wasn't.
All right, let's kind of pause there. So that kind of is pretty telling. Well, I don't think it's very, if you've been following this for the last 70 some days of this presidency, this administration, a lot of everything that they're doing is really off the cuff. It's just kind of like, let's just take I think somebody said, a sledgehammer or chainsaw. I hate the chainsaw thing after Elon Musk, but it's kind of true. They're just like tearing shit apart and not really even paying attention to what the hell they're doing. So this is causing issues. So DEI, what is a DEI policy for school? Who the hell knows? Is it cutting funding for kids or for girls? I think Jen says this somewhere in the video. Trying to get more girls into STEM programs in school. So I think that's worthy. I think that's something that it's definitely something that should be encouraged, and some funding can go into that. That's fine. Kids with disabilities that need that help, that's something that I think is really something that needs to be looked at. We'll get into some other things as a video. I think I have one other clip to play you guys. And then I want to show you some other statistics and stuff, but not even being able to define what a DEI policy is pretty crazy, because these schools are going to be made to just sit there and try to make up what they think is a DEI policy and try to eliminate it. And who the hell knows what that's going to result in. Let me play a little bit more of this clip here.
DOE says they'll evaluate violations on a case-by-case basis. What does that mean? I mean, basically, they'll make it up as they go along. So let's be clear, this isn't just about DEI. Project 2025 calls for phasing out federal education funding entirely over the next decade. And what this does is create two different Americas for students when it comes to education. In states like New York or Connecticut, where federal funds make up less than 10% of school budgets, maybe many of the schools could weather the storm.
Yeah, so this is another good point I'm going to bring up towards the end here. Um, different school districts have different funding depending on where they are, what kind of money is in that area, the demographic of the area, the district that they're in. So there's a lot of schools that don't get the same funding only because of where they are. So federal funding may not be a big deal in certain areas. In certain areas, it's huge. It's a really, really big deal. So I'm going to forward this video here a little bit. We're going to skip to, let's see, where am I going? There we go. We're going to go here, and here we're joined by Miguel Cardona, sorry. And again, he's the former education secretary to Joe Biden. All right, let's take a look at this video.
And we want to make sure that our students are getting more, not less. And I think what we're seeing here is the students who are furthest from opportunity, or the students that need the most support, are the ones that are going to be impacted the most. The 26 million students who are economically disadvantaged, many of them in rural communities. We have 9 million rural students. Students with disabilities, 7 million students across the country who risk having services provided for them, and the 17 million students who are looking to Pell Grants so they can go to college. So, it's, as you said earlier, they're short on specifics, but I think the threat is there, and we have schools right now scrambling to figure out what it means. Does cutting DEI, Jen, mean that we're going to limit opportunities for children with autism or children with Down syndrome to participate in unified sports? Or does it mean that we don't look at the inequity around STEM classes for our girls? We want to recruit girls into STEM programs so they could have access to these high-skill, high-paying careers, right? But that's equity. So educators across the country are scrambling to try to figure this out. And, it's a threat. And as you said before, it's pretty ironic that as they're talking about giving control to the states, there's more federal oversight or threats than ever before. So it is ironic.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll stop it there. But it's true. I mean, when Trump said that he wants to give control of education back to the states and then turn around and say, well, we're going to cut the funding if you don't do certain things that we want you to do. Which I guess when you really boil it down, it's the government money. I guess it could be divvied out whichever way you want, but really that money has been appropriated not by Donald Trump, but by Congress, and they are the ones that tell you that this is what the money's for. So unless he can actually legally get rid of like the Department of Education and funnel this money whichever way he wants, then I guess that's prerogative, but it hurts. And it doesn't just hurt, certain demographics. It's kind of the demographics that are, really in Donald Trump's wheelhouse. So if you take a look at this, I'm sure if you followed politics enough, you've seen that this is the electoral map from the last election, from this past election. And you can see the red and blue states. This is all I wanted to highlight here is the red and blue states. And now I have another tab here that this kind of shows. So if you get to the top 50, it's right before we get to California there. So Georgia, this is the top 50 lowest scores for education level. So these are the states with the lowest education level, basically. And, this is ranked from, like, I'm just taking the top 20 or the lowest 20, I should say. And what's crazy about this list is that every one of these states, except for New Mexico, is a red state. So, you're cutting funding, but you're not only cutting funding to, you're hurting everybody essentially, but the poorest educated states are the ones that you should want to give more funding to make sure that they can get out of the rut that they're in, that they can afford to, provide students with a better education, with STEM programs, with, different types of education opportunities, not only, for black and brown kids, for girls, for kids with, different disabilities, learning disabilities or physical disabilities, and just give those opportunities to people instead of taking it away. Maybe you can, divert the funds to the states and the districts that need it most. So, there may be other ways to solve an issue, but getting rid of DEI when they can't even define what DEI is, um, I would hate to see that goes towards like eliminating education, like, I don't know, Martin Luther King, not teaching that, not teaching about the Holocaust, different times in history that might not be convenient, or that, not teaching kids about slavery is just I can't even imagine that would be a thing, but maybe it will be. I hope not. Anyway, food for thought on that one. So that's that clip I wanted to play, and what's going on with that. Hopefully this doesn't become a thing where this DEI, schools that denounce this DEI thing, whatever that means, is going to lose funding. I hope that doesn't happen, but just so you guys know, this is what's coming. Now the second video I wanted to show, let me make sure I can bring that up here. So this one is a video from CNN. This is Abby Phillip. She's host of Table for Five on CNN. She has, my favorite, really, I said I wasn't going to swear on this show, but I'm going to anyway. It's fucking douchebag Scott Jennings. He's a senior political commentator on CNN. How the hell this guy got to be a senior political commentator is really beyond me. I mean, if you want to get a look at him, that's the guy there. Terrible human being, in my opinion, but whatever. Van Lathan is co-host of the podcast Higher Learning. John Avlon, political analyst, and S.E. Cupp is a political commentator and the host of Off the Cup on iHeartRadio. So that's the panel that's here. And, this is, I don't know. We're just going to say that the gist of this is, a heat shield. Is Elon Musk a heat shield for Donald Trump, basically? Is he taking the heat so Donald Trump can go behind the scenes and, do whatever the hell kind of shit that he's going to do with tariffs and everything else to, screw up the country even more. So let's go from the beginning here.
It's almost like Trump with the tariffs kind of took the heat off of Elon after what happened in Wisconsin, because he needs it. He's been having a really rough few weeks, and Republicans in Congress and elsewhere are getting nervous, and they would like him to turn the dial down on some of this stuff.
Yeah, I was on with you guys some weeks ago, and I said that the Republicans were going to have to bench Elon Musk, that they were going to have to put him on the bench. He is deeply, deeply unrelatable when you look at him. And then he doesn't seem to talk about the American people as if they're actually people. He's running his wing of the country in a very dollars and cents, like Neo from the Matrix way. And he doesn't seem to have that little empathy chip that allows a person to understand when you're talking about somebody's job, when you're talking about somebody's future, when you say that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. I immediately think of my grandma.
Okay, I'll stop it there because he goes in and talks about his grandma. About the Social Security thing as being a Ponzi scheme. So, he says a lot of interesting things there. And, when you have a bunch of billionaires that are trying to make policy for other people, these billionaires have no idea. They're talking in dollars and cents. They're not talking in in the lives of everyday Americans and the everyday, going to your job and doing your job and making enough to get by. And a lot of people in this country, including myself, are paychecks away from poverty, and it's not something that is that these billionaires really understand or communicate. And so he's got a really good point there. And when you say that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, well, Social Security is paid for by working people who pay into it. That's what funds, that's what funds Social Security. And I don't see that as a Ponzi scheme. You're saving for your future, you're saving for your retirement. And that's what Social Security is meant for. So seems pretty straightforward to me. So let's skip ahead a little bit here. I'm going to... Okay, so and just so you guys know, for this channel, everything I'm doing on my own. I don't have any production people. I don't have anybody to queue up these clips for me, so I'm doing it on my own. Kind of prefer it that way anyway. But just so you know, when I'm cutting in and out, I'm kind of getting things ready to go. So let's go back here, and this is where I think this is the clip our resident douchebag Scott Jennings gets to talk. So let's take a listen.
And I do think that there's something about this Wisconsin race that was so interesting in the way that Elon really kind of put his money front and center. He wasn't just saying, I'm using my voice as a citizen to push for the guy I like. He was like, let me just hand out some checks, and this is how we're going to win this thing. And I do think that there was always a risk that voters were going to say, that's not how this country works, and we don't like that. And some of that backlash, no question, hurt the Republicans.
What do you mean that's not how this country works? People don't donate money to political campaigns?
No. What I'm saying is that the idea that a billionaire hands people checks for votes is not how the country works.
I don't think that's accurate. He wasn't handing people checks.
So if
for
Okay, so he definitely was handing people checks for votes. I mean, let's be straight here. If somebody comes up to you and says, I'm going to give you $1 million, and I'm there, pushing for this one candidate, and I'm going to give you $1 million, or just say, hey, all you people that voted for this person, if you vote for this person, you're going to be thrown into a pool, and I'm going to draw a name out of a hat, and you're going to get $1 million. But you all have to vote for this person first. That's buying votes. That's basically giving people a check. That is what we're talking about here. And this guy is going to spin it way out of control, saying, like, it is not a problem to donate to a political campaign. Okay, here we go.
George Soros were to say, oh, I'm going to give away $1 million to a random 5 people who go out and vote on this day, what would you say?
Look, all kinds of billionaires spent money in this race. I think you guys are dramatically overreading the results. A liberal seat stayed in liberal hands and got about the same percentage of the vote as the last Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. It's absolutely true.
Okay, so to his point, he is true. He's not lying there. I mean, I don't know whether there'd be any difference in that political campaign or in that Supreme Court justice campaign in the state of Wisconsin, regardless of whether Elon Musk was there or not. Maybe he swayed a few more voters, maybe not. That's not the point. That's not the point of what we're talking about here. So, they want to do the, whataboutisms and well, last time it didn't affect anything, so what's wrong with it now? Well, there's a lot wrong with it. So, I think I wanted to stop there in this clip. Let's go. Let me go more towards the end here. So this is where SE Cup actually, talks about what we, well, I'll play the clip. Here you go. Oh, hang on.
Exactly what Donald Trump wanted him to do in all the ways. The heat shield, I mean, the crap that he has done and the incoming he has dealt with took a lot of heat off of Donald Trump for the first couple of months of his presidency. That was important, I think, for Donald Trump. And wrecking, the U.S. government, I think, is exactly what Donald Trump wanted him to do. The idea that they would be upset with him doesn't make sense to me, doesn't ring true to me.
Okay, so that was the end of the clip. So yeah, she's right though. I mean, what Elon Musk is out there doing is kind of creating this diversion, and doing all these things for Trump so he can kind of do what he needs to do and screw up our country a little bit more. So that's kind of where we're at, it seems. Not great, but that's the political state that we're in right now. Let me see. That's about all I wanted to cover for today. I wanted to make this a quick one to make sure everything was working. My idea is to probably go for about an hour a day, have multiple topics, and go over those. For today, I kind of wanted to keep it a little bit short and make sure I got everything kind of working the way I want it to. So with all that said, I want to thank you for watching. I know there is nobody currently viewing right now, which isn't surprising. But once again, if you do see this after the fact, please like and subscribe. And again, help support the channel at buymeacoffee.com/The Daily Democracy Report. That would be great. And again, you can follow us on Blue Sky at it's going to come across the bottom of the screen anyway, but that is at where's my there you go. Blue Sky at the Daily Dem Report.bsky.social. Man, that's hard to say. Anyway, thanks again, everybody. Take care, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.